editing, we use state from React, default value is false, const is deleting, set is deleting, like that, use state false, and make sure you have use state imported from React, like this. Okay, now that we have those two, let's go back after this is PDF right here, and let's go ahead and render if, let me zoom back in. Okay, so if there is no file URL, and if we are not editing, in that case, go ahead and render a paragraph like that, and let's go ahead and just write the content inside like that. There we go. And now let's go ahead and give this a class name like that, which is going to be dynamic. So add cn from add/lib_utils. So make sure you have this imported. Okay. In the first one, it's going to have text-sn, text-sync-600 like that. And on dark mode, it's going to have text-sync-300 like that. Great. Let's see if that is correct. Yes, it is. Okay. And if we are deleted, so if deleted, in that case, we're going to modify the style a bit by using italic, text-sync-500, and on dark mode, it's going to be text-sync-400, and it's going to be text-extra small and margin top of 1 like that. So this is the entire dynamic class name for the content. So if it's deleted, we're going to make it italic, we're going to make it an even more muted color, we're going to make the text even smaller, and we're just going to add a bit of a space from the top. Perfect. So you're going to see that this in action when we actually enable deleting of that. Perfect. And below this content, what I want to do is I want to write if is updated like this, and if it's not deleted, in that case, let's go and let's write a span element like this, and let's write just in parentheses edited like this. So a little indicator that this message has been edited. Let's give it a class name of text-10 pixels like that, mx-2, text-sync-500 like that, and on dark mode, text-sync-400 like that. Perfect. So you can't really see neither the deleted or the edited, but when we add those actions, you're gonna see them working. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and find the end of this right here, find the end of this two divs like that, and go ahead and open a conditional can delete message like this. If we can delete message, go ahead and open a div like this with a class name of hidden, but on group hover, it's going to be flex, items-center, gap-x-2, like that, absolute, p-1, top-2, sorry, minus top-2, like this, right-5, bg-white, but on dark, bg is going to be sync 800, like this. We're going to have a border and a rounded -sm like this. So let's see if you can already see that. There we go. When I hover on my message, since I am the owner of this message, you can see that a small little dot appears, right? So we're going to turn this into our actions to edit and delete the message. Great. So now let's go inside of that. And inside, what I want to do is first open another conditional, can edit message. So if I can edit message, only then am I going to render this action tooltip, which we already have, which is going to have a label of edit like that. And inside, what I'm going to do is add an edit icon from Lucid React. So make sure you import that like this. Edit, file icon, shield alert, and shield check. Make sure you have all of those. Okay. And inside of this, I'm going to go ahead and give this a class name of cursor-pointer, ml-auto, w-4, h-4, like that. I'm also going to have it text-sync-500, hover, text-sync-600, on dark, on hover, it's going to be text-sync-300 and transition like this. Great, so let's see now. You can see that now I have a nice little edit button here. So let me go ahead and expand this. You can see when I hover on my message, since I can edit it, I have a nice little button here, right? And let's go ahead and switch to light mode. There we go, you can see it looks nice even in light mode. Perfect. So let's go ahead and let's continue developing by adding the delete option. So this one is going to be very similar, but you can go ahead and copy this, just place it outside of the can edit message conditional like this. And let me just align this indentation. Instead of edit, it's going to be delete, and instead of the edit, trash from Lucid React like that. There we go. So make sure you have imported the trash icon. And now let's see. And we should have, there we go. Now we have the delete function here, and in here we have both edit and delete. So you can see how for the PDF file, I'm not having the edit option. Same thing for the image, but for the text message, I can edit and delete it. Perfect. So we have now added that. What I want to do now is that when we click on edit, this turns into an input that we can modify and then send a request to the database. So let's go ahead and let's find this can edit message right here. And on this edit, on click, go ahead and call an arrow function, which calls set is editing to true like this. Great. And now let's go ahead and let's import everything we need from the form and everything we need from the other components. Great. So inside of right here, go ahead and import from add/components/UI/form like this. Import the form, form control, form field, and form item like that. Let's also go ahead and let's import everything as Z from Zod like that. And let's import Axios from Axios. Let's import QS from query-string because we're going to need both of those to create some requests. Let's import use form from React hook form like that. And let's import Zod resolver from add hook form/resolvers/Zod. Great. Now let's go ahead and create our form schema. So I'm going to go below the role icon map here and write const form schema is going to be z.object content z.string with a minimum value of 1. Whoops, like this. Great. Now that we have that, let's go ahead and let's create our form. So I'm going to go inside of my chat item here, and I'm going to go right here and write const form is equal use form right here. Let's go ahead and let's give it a type of z.info type of form schema like that. Let's add a resolver to be Zod resolver form schema. And let's go ahead and let's write default values, content to be content like that. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's write a quick use effect from React. So make sure you import the use effect from React. Let me just show you here. There we go. And in here, all I'm going to do is form.reset content to be content like that. And it's going to trigger on any content change. So this is going to make sense when we enable real-time message updating. When we receive new information here, let's immediately reset that form if the user tries to edit a message again, so that when we click is editing, we don't actually show the previous message. All right, and now that we have that, let's go ahead and let's import a couple of more components here. So I'm going to import input from /UI input, but I'm going to rename that to /components like that. And I'm also going to import button from /UI button, but I'm going to change it to this. Great. Now, what we have to do is we have to go and find where our general content rendering is. So this one, right? With is updated and not deleted, and this sign right here, and this conditional if it's not file URL, and if it's not is editing, then we render that. Great. So go just below that, and what you're gonna do here is write if there is no file URL and if is editing like that. In that case, let's go ahead and let's add our form element, which we imported. Let's pass in everything from the form inside like that. Let's open the native form element like this. Let's give it an onSubmit for now, form.handleSubmit. And let's create our onSubmit now. So I'm going to go to the top here, just above all of this stuff. So right here, const onSubmit is going to be just a very simple values. We're going to add the type later. So console log values like that. Okay. And let's use this onSubmit back here. So pass in that onSubmit. All right. And let's go ahead and let's give this form a class name, which is going to be flex items dash center w dash full gap dash x dash 2 like that, and pt dash 2 like that. Great. Inside of the form, go ahead and render the single form field, which is a self-closing tag, and we already have it imported. The control is going to be form.control like that. Name is going to be content like this, and render is going to be a function which immediately destructures the field, and it returns a form item like that. Give the form item a class name of flex-1 like that. Inside, use the form control like that, and let's just fix the indentation. Okay, and inside create a div with a class name of relative and w-full like this. Great. And finally, let's add our input here. Let's give it a class name prop. So we're gonna add p-2 bg-sync-200/90. On dark mode, it's going to be bg-sync-700/75 like that. Border-none, border-0, focus-visible colon ring-0 like that. And let's also give it a focus-visible ring-offset-0 like that. Text-sync-600, and on dark mode, text-sync-200 like that. Great. And on the placeholder, we're gonna write edited message like that. And let's also go ahead and spread the field just like that. Perfect. So let's see if we can already see that. If I press on edit here, there we go. You can see how this turns into a nice input where I can write whatever I want. Great. And what I want to do now is just a button next to it, as well as a little text instructions on how to cancel if person accidentally clicked on that, right? So find the end of this form field right here, but still inside of this native HTML form element, and add the button which we imported and write save. Let's go ahead and let's give it a size of small and a variant, of primary like that. Great. And outside of the form, let's go ahead and let's create a span, which is going to say press escape to cancel like that, enter to save. And let's give it a class name of text dash open square brackets 10 pixels, so a very small text, margin top 1, and text dash sync dash 400 like that. Perfect. So let's try this out now. If I go and click edit on the message, there we go. I have the save button and I have the little span telling me press escape to cancel and enter to save. Perfect. So let's go ahead and let's trigger this escape to cancel functionality right here, right? I'm going to go all the way to the top and I'm going to create a new use effect here. So we can do it before anything here. Use effect, I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead now. Right here, and let's write const handle key down event. Let's give it the type of any for now. If event.key is equal to escape, like that, or event.keycode is equal to 27, set is editing is false like that. Perfect. And now let's add window.add event listener key down to be handle key down like that, and return window.remove event listener key down like that, handle key down, just like that. Perfect. And I'm just going to replace this with double quotes just to be consistent. And now if I try and like click on something and click escape, you can see how it immediately cancels that entire thing. Perfect. So what I want to do now is an actual on submit, that when I change something and save, I want it to be sent to the server. Perfect. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to go ahead and create a proper on submit function. So let's find our on submit function right here. And let's go ahead and change these values to be a type of z.infer and pass in the form type of form schema like that. And let's make it an asynchronous function. Let's go ahead and let's open a try and catch block. And let's log the error like that. Perfect. Let's also extract const is loading from the form.formState.isSubmitting. And before we forget, let's use this is loading and find our form here. Let's give the disabled prop to the input if we are loading. And let's also give the disabled prop to the button if we are loading. Like this. Great. And now let's go back. Well, where am I? Okay. Let's go back inside of this onSubmit function here. What I want to do here is write const URL to be QS, which we have imported, stringify URL like that, and go ahead and write URL, open backticks, socket URL /ID like that. And the query is going to be socket query like that. Perfect. And now let's just write await axios.patch URL and values. Perfect. So now we have that, which means that if I go ahead and try, so I'm just going to zoom out a bit and open my inspect element here. And if I try editing a message, so try and edit any message you have. So edited message, I should get a 404 not found. Perfect. So that's exactly what I wanted. Let's go ahead and let's create that route now. So let's go ahead. I'm going to close this inspect elements and I'm just going to collapse everything here. Okay. And make sure you save all of those files. Go inside of your pages, go inside of your API socket right here. And let's go ahead and let's create a new folder called messages like this. Go inside of that folder and create a new file, message id.ts like that. And now what's going to happen is that we have this message.ts files and this messages folder. So what we have to do is drag and drop this messages.ts file into the folder like this, and just go ahead and rename it to index.ts, right? So that's going to hold the /messages. And just to confirm everything is still working, go ahead and try and create a new message. So new message like this. Let's see if it's going to work. Let's refresh, and I should have two new messages now. So there we go, new message one, and this one sent right now. Great. So now let's go ahead inside of this newly created messages message id.ts right here, and let's go ahead and let's actually resolve updating and deleting our message. So export default asynchronous function handler like that. It's going to take the request, which is next API request from next, and a response, which is next API response server IO from our special types like that. And let's just separate the two. Perfect. Now inside, let's go ahead and first let's limit the route methods because we are doing this in the pages API. So if request.method is not delete like that, and if request.method is not equal to patch, in that case, return response.status 405.json with an error of method not allowed like that. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's open a try and catch block. Let's go ahead and let's console log the error, message ID like that, and an error like that. And let's just go ahead and return a 500 error, internal error. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's get our profile, but for the pages. So const profile is equal await current profile pages. So make sure you import that one and pass in the request. So make sure you have this import. Great. Let's go ahead and let's get the message ID, server ID, and channel ID. Whoops. From react.query like that. And let's extract the content from the request.body like that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and let's write if there is no profile. We can go ahead and just return 401 unauthorized. Great. Now let's go ahead and copy and paste this. If there is no server ID, we're going to say server ID missing with a status of 400. And let's go ahead and do that again, but for the channel ID, saying channel ID missing. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's attempt to fetch the server. So let's add our db util. So import db from /libdb. And let's write const server is equal to await db.server.find first, like that, where ID is server ID as string, whoops, members, sum, profile ID, profile.id, like that, and let's include the members like that. Great. And you can just copy this one more time, paste it here. If there is no server, 404 with an error, server not found, like that. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's attempt to find the message, right? Sorry, the channel. So const channel is equal to await db.channel.find first, where ID is channel ID as string and server ID is server ID as string, like that. Great. And that's enough for the channel. And you can go ahead and copy and paste this and just slightly modify it. Instead of looking for the server, this one is for the channel, saying channel not found. Great. Now let's go ahead and let's attempt to get the individual member. So const member is equal to server.members.find, get the member, like that. And member.profile ID is matching the profile that we are in, .id, like that. If there is no member, you can go ahead and return another 404 error saying that member not found. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's find the message. So let message is equal to await db.message.find first, like that, where ID is message ID as string, channel ID is channel ID as string, and let's also include the member, and let's also include the member's profile by setting the profile to true, like that. Perfect. Now I'm just gonna copy this one more time, like that, and inside I'm gonna say if there is no message or if message has been deleted. In that case, let's go ahead and write a 404 message not found, right? Great. Now let's go ahead and let's create some constants here. So const is message owner, message.member.id is equal to the current member.id. Const is admin, member.role is equal to member role. Let's import that from @prisma/client. So don't forget to do this. And I'm just going to move it to the top like that. If member role.admin, like that. Const is moderator is member.role is equal to member role.moderator, like that. And const can modify is going to be is message owner or is admin or is moderator, like that. Great. And let's immediately do an error here if we cannot modify this message. So if can modify with an exclamation point at the beginning, it's going to be a 401 and we are unauthorized to do this action. Great. And now let's go ahead and write if the method is a deleting method. So if rec.method is delete, in that case, message is going to be await db.message. Let's just not misspell this. So message is going to be await db.message. Whoops. Dot update. Remember, we are doing a soft delete, right? So where ID is message ID as string like that, and data, and now we're going to reset file URL, content, and we're going to change the deleted. So file URL is null. The content will change from this to this message has been deleted like that, and deleted is going to become true. Perfect. And let's also let's just not misspell this, so deleted like that. And of course, let's include our member, and let's include their profile like that. Perfect. Great job. Now let's go ahead and we can copy this entire thing, right? So if request method delete, let's go ahead and copy that here and change this one. The request method is patch. So if we are updating, let's also do just one quick change here inside, right? If we are not the message owner, in that case, return response.status 401.json and an error unauthorized, right? So only the owner of the message can do this, right? And is message owner like that. Even if a moderator or an admin tries, they can still not do that. So only the message owner can edit their own message, right? So db.message.update right here. This is correct. Instead, we're not going to change file URL. We're not going to change the content. We're going to do the content change using that variable. So this is the same thing as writing content, which we extracted from the request body. And make sure to include the member and to include the profile. Perfect. And now go outside of this if clause and write const update key, backticks chat, channel ID like that, colon messages, colon update like that, and response question mark socket, question mark server, question mark IO, whoops, server, question mark IO, question mark emit, update key, and the updated or the deleted message, and return response.status 200.json message like that. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and let's try this. So I'm going to refresh this and I'm going to open my inspect element here. So I'm just going to delete everything that comes here. I'm going to attempt to update this from test to this is an edited message. Let's click save and let's see if we're going to get any errors or if it's going to work. All right. Ignore this. This is because we don't have an appropriate connection from the front end yet. Okay, let's see. I didn't get any 404s. Let's see if I refresh. Will that say this is an edited message? And there we go. Look at it. It says this is an edited message. And look at the little edited sign right here. Great, great job. So it officially works. One more thing that I just want to do is after we finish updating this, so let me just close everything here and let's go back inside of the chat item. So go inside of components, chat item right here on submit. So after it successfully submits, do a form.reset and do set is editing back to false like that. Perfect. So now I'm going to try again. Let's do the latest one. I'm going to change this to this is a completely edited message. I'm going to save, and if it's successful, there we go. So I'm going to refresh this, and there we go. It's here. This is a completely edited message. So you can ignore that it disappeared. We're going to handle that using sockets and other things. Great, great job so far. So now we have to create the delete functionality. So let's go ahead and let's create the functionality that when we click on this delete trash icon, we actually have a model for that. So let's go ahead and let's head inside of our hooks, use a model store right here. And we have to add what I'm pretty sure is the last model in this tutorial, which is going to be the delete message model. So add a pipe and delete message like this. And we don't have to add anything here. What we are going to use is the API URL and the query. Perfect. So let's go ahead and let's find something similar. So components, models right here. We have the delete channel model. So how about we use that? I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it and rename that to delete-message-model.tsx like this. Let's rename that file. Just make sure you are in the new one. So it's going to be delete message model and change the isModel_open to delete message like this. Great. And we're going to leave it for here for now. Let's go inside of components, models, providers, model provider right here, and just add the last one, delete message model like that, and make sure you've imported it. And as always, I'm going to change this to /components. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and let's head back into components, chat item right here. And I think I've prepared some isDeleting here, but actually we're not gonna need it. So I got ahead of myself. So you can remove the isDeleting here. And instead, what we're gonna add is our useModel. So let's go ahead and add const on open from useModel, which you can import from add/hooks useModel store. So make sure you add this. There we go. Now let's go ahead and let's call this on open when we press on the trash icon. So let's go all the way down above everything, and there we go. So we have an onClick for our editing, but for our onTrash, we're gonna have onClick, which is going to call an arrow function, call the onOpen, call the delete message model, and the data is gonna be API URL, which is going to be a combination of our socket URL, so open backticks and write socket URL /ID like that. And we're going to pass in the query, which is going to be the socket query like that. Perfect. So I think we can already try it out. If I click on a delete, it should open the delete channel. Perfect. So let's now keep it open and let's slowly modify it so it does what we want for the delete message. Let's go inside of the components, models, delete message model right here. And first things first, let's just rename it. So instead of the title delete channel, it's going to be delete message. The are you sure you want to do this can stay. And we're just going to modify this. Well, nothing special. After the break, we're just going to write the message will be permanently deleted like that. There we go. Everything else, in my opinion, can stay exactly as it is, but we just have to modify the onClick function. Before we do that, let's go ahead and let's extract something from our useModel data here. So we are no longer working with the server and the channel. Instead, we are working with API URL and the query like that. So then we can go ahead and remove everything inside of this URL. Inside of this stringify URL options, and let's change them to use the URL, which is API URL, which we destructured from the data, which comes from the useModel. And whoops, I scrolled a bit too far. And let's just add a pipe empty string. And let's pass in the query like that. And then we have the await Axios delete URL. After that, we have the onClose like that. And there is pretty much nothing else we have to do. So we can completely remove those two. And let's see if that prompts us to remove anything else. Yes, we don't need this, so we can remove that. And that means we can also remove the import for that right here. Great. And I'm pretty sure that this should already be working. That's because this API URL, which comes from our chat item. So let's see how we define that. We call the socket URL /ID. Let's check out our channel page. So channel ID page to see what that is. So our API URL, our socket URL is /API/socket/messages, and we have the channel ID and the server ID. And we combined the socket URL with the ID of that chat. So it's going to be /API/socket/messages that message ID. And then that is going to go inside of our pages folder, API socket messages message ID. And if you remember, we created both the patch function and we also handled the delete function because they are very similar. So let's see if we are courageous enough to do this. I'm just going to click confirm. I don't even know what message I selected, but since it's loading thus far, there we go. It says this message has been deleted. So you might be wondering how come this was in real time. Well, that's because remember we have a 10-stack React query which falls back to polling if our WebSocket fails. For a split second it failed and then it updated my message with polling. Perfect. So this means that we have officially finished deleting messages. So let's try the latest one. I'm going to delete the latest message. I'm going to click confirm. Okay, and I'm going to refresh. And there we go. This message has been deleted and I can no longer do any actions on it. Perfect. Amazing, amazing job. What we are going to do now is we're going to add a hook, which is going to connect to the socket.io and watch for all of these events. So take a look at the events we need to handle. Inside of this folder, API socket, we have to watch for when we receive a new message using this channel key. So chat channel ID messages. So we have to watch for that. And we have to watch for individual updating of a message. So either delete or edit. Both of them are going to use the same key because it's technically updating both of them. Perfect. So we are going to do that next. So one thing I want to do before we get onto the socket thing, I wanted that when I click on a specific name from my message or their avatar, I want to get redirected to that member. So let's go ahead and let's go back inside of our components, inside of the chat, and go ahead and find the chat item component right here. What I want you to do is to import two items. So use router and use params from next/navigation like that. And then what I want you to do is go ahead inside of your chat item component and just create a new function, const on member click, like this. And let's go ahead and check if member has clicked on themselves. So if member.id is equal, and let's just do a proper arrow function. So if member, is this correct? Member.id is equal to current member.id. In that case, we can just return and break the function. Otherwise, let's go ahead and let's add the params, use params outside, const router is equal to use router. So we have both of those imported. And now let's use them here by saying router.push open backticks /servers/params .server ID /conversations /member.id like this. There we go. And now let's go ahead and let's use this on member click in two places. So the first one is going to be in this div right here, which holds our avatar. So when I click on here, on click, I want to call the on member click. And I want the same thing to happen when I click on this paragraph, which holds the member profile name like this. Great. So now if you go ahead and let's refresh this, and let's try if I go and click. So I sent some messages from another user here, and I suggest that you do that. So log out and just log back in and just send some messages so your chat has some content. And I'm gonna click here, and all right, I made a mistake here. So let's see what exactly went wrong here. All right, so the mistake is inside of my own member click function. Let's go ahead and find it. So it should be /servers, not /server like that. So let's now go back and let's see if that will fix it. So if I click on another user here, I should get redirected to our one-on-one conversation. There we go. So just like that. And if I try and click on myself, nothing should happen. Perfect. Now what I want to do is something that I've just noticed now is happening, and I thought we were going to resolve it later, is this error that we have right here regarding WebSockets. So it says that there is a WebSocket breaking here, right? And I've managed to debug where it's happening. So if you take a look at the terminal, so if you don't have that, okay, if you don't have an error, you can just continue. But I have this very specific error that ends with UND error invalid argument. right? It's very specific and I couldn't really figure out why it's happening. And then I figured it out. So we're gonna do step by step if you're having this exact error. So if you're not having this error in the console, right? You can also test by sending a message. So I'm just gonna send a random message like this. And you can see that when I send the message, for a brief second, I get another error. So if that's not happening to you, that means your WebSocket is working correctly. It looks like between the time that I finished my clone and between right now where I'm developing this, Next13 made an upgrade which broke my implementation for some reason. But don't worry, even if we don't implement WebSockets, we can always just ignore them and add polling. So first things first, I'm gonna show you how to do that, and then we're gonna fix the sockets by downgrading. I'm gonna show you how to do that. So how to do it with the React query. Go inside of hooks right here, go inside of use chat query, and what you can do here is just hard code this to 1000, the refetch interval, right? So every second you're going to refetch. And let me show you right now how that is going to look like. So I think you can already go ahead and say, okay, this is a new message. And once this is submitted, after a second, there we go. A new message is here. Let's try and edit this. So I'm gonna say this is a edited message. Let's save this. And again, after a second, it says this is an edited message. Let's try and delete it. And same thing, after a second, this message has been deleted. So you can see that this actually works pretty well, right? So even if you don't manage to fix this issue that I'm gonna show you how to fix now, you can always just do your refetch interval inside of your use chat query to a fixed every second polling. Great. Now turn it back to this. Is connected. We don't use polling, otherwise we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go inside of my next.config.js to fix this socket.io issue right here. And I'm gonna go inside and write webpack like this. And it's not really an object, it's a function. So get the config, go ahead and write config.externals.push and write UTF-8-validate CommonJS UTF-8-validate like that. And let's also write buffer util, okay, buffer util like this to be CommonJS buffer util like that. Okay. And before you start your application, what we are going to do is you are going to go inside of package.json and go ahead and find your next version. So my next version is 13.4.19 and this one seems to be problematic for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this version to next 13.4.12 right here. And I'm gonna do the same thing for slint config next, just so they match my version. So slint config next to 13.4.12 and next to 13.4.12 right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to shut down my application and I'm gonna run npm install like this. So I'm gonna install all of my packages and that's going to pick up that newer version inside that I've just changed, right? If I knew this at the beginning, I would have told you to do the npx create next app using that version, but I did not expect this to happen. All right, and now let's do npm run dev, and you're gonna get a couple of these warnings. And yeah, okay, I forgot to do one thing, so we get an error here. Let's go back inside of next config here. And I forgot to return the config. So after you push something to it, go ahead and return the config like that. Great. And you don't have to change anything. So what we did in the package.json is fine. And let's try again after we added that. So npm install, I'm just going to do it just in case. Okay. And npm run dev again. Great. So I just did a small mistake in next config.json. I forgot to write return config. Great. Now that this is here, let's go ahead and refresh now, and it seems like we no longer have that weird error that I was showing you from before. Look at this, no errors, just compiling events. So it's definitely due to the next 13 version. And you can also take a look, and let's try and send a message now. So I'm just gonna write test socket trigger. Let's see if that's going to trigger a socket error. And it seems to not have triggered any error. So yes, it's not loading here in real time because we don't have that set up, but no errors. That's exactly what I wanted. Great. Let's go ahead now and let's create a hook, which is actually going to load these messages in real time using sockets in the next 13.4.12 version, because obviously the newer one is not working. I'm sorry for that, but I could not have known that would happen. Great. Let's go now inside of our hooks, and let's go ahead and create a new hook called use-chat-socket.ts like this. And let's go ahead and let's write type chat socket props like this. It's going to have an add key, which is a string, an update key, which is also a string, and it's going to have a query key, which is also going to be a string. Now let's go ahead and write export const use chat socket. And inside, let's immediately destructure the add key, the update key, and the query key like that. And let's do chat socket props like that, and return an arrow function. Let's extract the socket from our provider using the use socket hook from the providers folder like that. So make sure you have this imported. Okay, and let's add the query client from use query client like this. Make sure you import that from TenStack query. All right, and now let's go ahead and let's open our use effect here. So use effect from React, make sure you add this import right here, and let me just move it with this one. And let's go ahead and let's just add an empty array here. And let's just quickly go and create one type that we're going to need here. So type message with member with profile is going to be a message which comes from @prisma/client. So make sure you import that. I'm just going to move it here. So it's going to be a message which has a member. So import member from Prisma client, and that member has a profile like this. There we go. So just make sure you have this 3 imported and you added this type. Perfect. So now let's go back inside of our use effect. And first one, we're going to do a check if there is no socket. So very quickly, if there is no socket, in that case, we can just break the function. No need to go further. All right. And now let's create a socket method to update the message in real time. So either delete it or edit it. So socket on update key gives us a message, and that message is a type of message with member with profile like that. And inside, we're going to call the query client, and we're going to set query data inside the query key. We're going to get the old data, which is a type of any, and we are going to use that old data to iterate all the pages and find the matching message using the ID and replace it inside of that data. So first, let's do a check if our old data is not enough to update. So if there is no old data at all, or if there are no old data.pages, or if old data.pages.length is equal to 0, we can just return old data like that. Perfect. Let's go ahead and write const new data to be old data.pages.map, get individual page, which is a type of any, and return spread the page inside. And now let's get the items to be page.items.map, get the individual item, which is message with member with profile like that. And go ahead and write if item.id is equal to message.id, which we received from the socket. That means, okay, we found what message to replace, so return the new message from the socket instead. And for all others, leave them as it is. Perfect. So we finished that socket. Let's see where it ends. Okay, it ends right here. Perfect, but we are actually not done. We have to return this new data. So let's just go ahead and find the end of this new data block right here, and go ahead and write return, and just spread all the data inside, and pages is the new data like this. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and let's write another socket action, which is gonna watch for new messages. So socket.on add key message, a type of message with member with profile, like that. Query client.set query data, using the query key like this. Old data, which is a type of any. If there is no old data, or if we don't have old data.pages, or if old data.pages.length is equal to 0, in that case return pages, open an array and a single object inside with items and that new message inside of an array. Great, go outside of this if clause and then const new data and spread old data.pages inside like that. And then just focus on the first page. So new data 0 is equal to all the new data inside. So new data 0 items. And we are going to add inside of that, sorry, the items is an array like that. So add the new message to the top and spread new data dot items inside like that. Great. And then you can go ahead and just simply write return an object, old data, pages, new data, like that. Perfect. So just go ahead and close this stuff. Great. And then let's go ahead and let's just write a return function to call socket of add key and socket of update key, like that. Great. And let's pass in the query client in the dependencies array. Let's pass in the add key, the query, add key, the query key, socket, and the update key as well. There we go. Great. Now let's go back inside of our chat messages. So save this file. If you think you've made a mistake, you can always copy it from my GitHub. And let's go inside of the app folder. Inside of components, chat messages, and right below the use chat query, let's add the new use chat socket from /hooks use chat socket. So I imported that right here. Great. Let's go ahead now and let's add the necessary keys inside. So we need the query key, we need the add key, and we need the update key like this. We don't have the add key and update key, so let's quickly create them at the top here. So const add key, open backticks, chat ID like that, and messages, const update key, chat ID, and messages and update like that. Right, and this needs to be the same as in your pages folder, socket folder, messages folder. So the index is for adding messages, so chat ID messages, and for deleting and updating, it's chat ID messages update. So just make sure those match. Chat ID messages for adding and chat ID messages update for updating. So let's go ahead and let's see if this will work in real time now. So I'm going to create a new channel, test socket, just so it's completely clear, right? So I don't have any other messages inside. I'm going inside of that newly created channel and I'll write, okay, test socket in real time. Let me just zoom in. And if I paste this, let's see if that is going to work. And there we go. It seems to work in real time. So it's definitely due to the Next 13 version. Again, I'm sorry because of that. Now let's go ahead and let's try and editing it. So edit in real time. Let's save the file. Let's see if our other hook is working. It does. Edit in real time is working. And let's try deleting in real time. So I'm going to confirm this message. And there we go. So it all works perfectly. So what did we do? How did we fix that little error we had with the WebSockets? Let's look at all of our changed files. So in the next config.js, well, this is useless. Okay, so in the next config.js, we added a webpack config fixing those errors in the console that we have, adding this too and returning the config. We forgot that, so we couldn't start our application. And one other important thing we did was inside of the package JSON. So we downgraded from Next 13.4.19 or whatever version your will be when you're watching this video, all the way to 13.4.12, right? But as I've mentioned, if you did not have any error in your version, I don't know what it might be when you're watching this video, it could be that they fixed the issue, and I'm sure they will. They're a great team and they always listen to their customers, but you know, we are all developers and sometimes we make mistakes, even in production. So we downgraded to this safe version, and then we finished our hook and we just tested every functionality and it seems to work. So great job. What we have to do now is we have to add functionalities for our scroll, right? And we also had to add a functionality that when we scroll up, it loads older messages. So let's go ahead and let's do that now. So now let's go ahead and let's wrap up our chat messages component by adding the scroll functionalities, right? Because right now there is no way for us to load new messages, and we do batches of 10 messages. So let's go ahead and let's go inside of components, chat messages right here, and let's go ahead and let's add useRef from React. So alongside fragment, go ahead and add useRef and element ref. So those two right here. And now let's go ahead and below these keys, let's go ahead and let's add const chatref to be useRef, give it the type of element ref, open pointy brackets and write a div like this and a default value of null. And you can go ahead and copy that and do the same thing for bottom ref. So it's also going to be a div. Great. And now let's go ahead and let's assign this chat ref all the way here to this first div in the return function. So this main return function, not the error or the loading. So find the main return function and give the ref of chat ref to this one right here. Perfect. And go ahead all the way down, and before the end, add a new div, which is a self-closing tag, and give it a new ref, which is going to be bottom ref like this. Perfect. And before we create our use scroll hook, let's go ahead and let's just use some of these items which we got from the chat query. Fetch next page, has next page, and is fetching next page. So let's go ahead and let's render this conditionally. So if we don't have a next page, in that case only do you render this div class flex right here. In this case, go ahead and write has if we don't have next page. In that case only, also render the chat welcome like that. So we don't want always to have this chat welcome, right? We only want to have it if we are on the last page. And we know if we are on the last page, if there is nothing more to load. If we've come to the top, then we can display this space which pushes everything, right? See how it looks now. See? Because we have more than 10 messages here. So at the top, I'm not rendering that big space and the chat welcome. Only when I scroll up and load messages older than this, do I want to show that chat welcome screen, because it means, okay, we've come to the beginning of the conversation. Great. And now below this, let's go ahead and let's add a new condition, has next page. So if we have next page to load, let's go ahead and add a div here with the class name of flex justify-center. And let's go ahead and add a conditional is fetching next page. So if we are fetching the next page, we're going to add a little loader at the top. So loader to icon. I think we should already have that imported from Lucid React. Yes, we already used it. Great. Let's give it a class name of h-6 and w-6 text-sync- 500 animate dash spin and my dash 4. And now let's go ahead and do the other thing. If we don't, add a button which is going to say load previous messages like that. And let's go ahead and let's give this button a class name of text-sync-500 hover text-sync-600 dark text sync-400 text-extra small my-4 dark hover text-sync-300 and transition like that. Great. So let's go ahead and let me refresh my application to see if everything is working all right. Okay, it seems like something has broken, but there we go. I just refreshed. And now you can see if you send more than 10 messages here, so go ahead and spam your chat and you should see this button to load previous messages, right? And now let's add an on click to that button. So add on click to call an arrow function fetch next page like that. Perfect. So now I think it should already work. If you try, it's loading and there we go. And now it loaded the welcome to general and everything else. And you can see in a completely smaller channel, we load the test socket right here. So we load the welcome screen at the beginning and this space. But if we send more than 10 messages, then we have this load previous messages button. And you can see I added a lot of messages here. So it took me 3 clicks in order to get to the top. Perfect. Now let's try to automate that by adding a chat scroll hook. So let's go ahead inside of our hooks and create a new file use-chat-scroll.ts like that. And let's go ahead and let's write a type. Let me zoom in. Chat scroll props is going to be chatref, which is react.ref object. HTML div element like that. We're also going to have a bottom ref like that. Should load more, which is a boolean. Load more, which is going to be a function, and a count, which is going to be a number like that. And now let's go ahead and export const use chat scroll like that. Let's extract this. So chat ref, bottom ref, should load more, and count. And let's go ahead and let's assign those. So this should be a function. So go ahead and wrap this in parentheses like that, and then assign chat scroll props like that. There we go. And let's go ahead and add const hash initialized, set has initialized to be use state from React. So make sure you add that import and give it a default value of false. Let's also import use effect from React. So use effect and use state from React. And let's go ahead and open an arrow function here with an empty dependency array for now. And inside, let's get the top div. So const top div is equal to chatref dot current like that. And then let's write the handle scroll. So const handle scroll like this. Const scroll top is equal top div scroll top. If scroll top is 0 and should load more. So if we scrolled all the way to the top and there is more to load, let's go and immediately load more. So no need to, did I add the function? I didn't. I also have the function load more. I didn't add it here. So just add it to the props load more like this. There we go. So if we manually scroll to the top, immediately scroll more. Perfect. And now let's just add that listener. So let's go ahead here and add top div dot add event listener like that, scroll handle scroll like that. And let's do a return top div dot remove event listener scroll handle scroll like that. Great. So that's for scrolling manually to the top. And let's give it a should load more dependency, load more, and chat ref dependency. And now let's create another use effect, which is going to get triggered when we get a new message. So we know to scroll to the bottom. Use effect again. And let's go ahead and get the bottom div. So const bottom div is equal to bottom ref dot current const top div is equal to chatref.current. Const should auto scroll is going to be a function if we have not initialized, so if not hash initialized, and if we have a bottom div, set has initialized to true, and return true, like that. Otherwise, if we can't get to top div, so if there is no top div, go ahead and return false, like that. And now let's calculate the distance from the bottom. And if we are not too far from the bottom of the chat, then whenever we get a new message, we can scroll the user all the way down. But if the user forcefully goes up to load new messages, no point in scrolling the user down and interrupting their search. So const distance from bottom is top div.scroll height minus top div.scroll top minus top div.client height, like that. And return distance from bottom is less or equal than 100, like that. And then let's go ahead and let's write. So let me just see if I finished this correctly. Okay, this can be indented. Can it? No. Okay, like this. And now let's write if should auto scroll and execute that function. Set timeout. Like this. Bottom ref dot current question mark scroll into view behavior smooth, like that. And let's give the timeout 100 milliseconds. And let's add the bottom ref, the chat ref, count, and has initialized to this use effect. Great. So we have that now. Now let's go ahead back inside of our chat messages, and below the use chat socket, add use chat scroll from /hooks use chat scroll. So we just created that hook. Great. And go ahead and pass the chat ref. Go ahead and pass the bottom ref, the load more, which is going to be fetch next page, which we have from this chat query here. Should load more is going to be if we are not fetching more, if we're not fetching the next page, if we have the next page, by turning this into a boolean using double exclamation points, has next page, and a count, which is going to just count the latest page. So data.pages, first one, dot items, dot length. And if we can't get any of that, default to 0, like this. So make sure to use these question marks just so they always trigger. So they don't accidentally break the app, sorry. Okay, now let's try. I'm gonna try and say new message, and I should automatically get scrolled down. There we go. You can see how my screen automatically scrolled down. And now I'm going to refresh here, and I'm going to try to load messages manually by scrolling up. So if I scroll up, there we go, it's loading. If I scroll a bit down and load more, it's loading newer. And I can do that all the way to the top. Perfect. So depending if user can manually scroll, we are going to trigger the auto scroll. And if a user for some reason cannot scroll, so let's test this in this one. I have a lot of messages here. So if for some reason user scrolls to the top and then it's stuck like this, they can always click manually to load previous messages. Great, so you completely wrapped up the chat messages component. What we have to do now is we have to enable them for the individual one-on-one member conversation, which is going to be easy because we have everything completed now. We just have to create the API routes for it, and then we're going to finish it up with live audio and video calls. So now let's go ahead and let's enable one-on-one conversation. So let's go back inside of our main folder, inside of routes, server ID, and instead of channels, go ahead, to the individual member ID page right here. So far, we've only put the chat header, but now we can add the chat messages from add/components chat messages, and we can add the chat input from add/components chat input. So just make sure you have both of those, chat messages and chat inputs. I'm just gonna move this to the top. So chat header, chat messages, and chat input. Now let's go ahead and let's give them all appropriate props. So for the chat messages, let's give the member of current member like that. Let's give the name of other member.profile.name like that. Chat ID of conversation.id. Type of conversation. API URL to /API/direct/message-messages like this. Param key is going to be conversation ID. Param value is going to be conversation.id. Socket URL is going to be /API/socket/direct-messages like this. And socket query is going to be an object which takes in the conversation ID and which is type of conversation.id like this. Great. And now for the chat input, go ahead and give it a name of other member.profile.name like that. Let's go ahead and give it a type of conversation, API URL of /API/socket/direct-messages like that, and query of conversation ID, conversation.id like that. And if you save those, now you should also see messages here, but our request is going to fail. That's because we don't have this route /API/socket direct messages and /API/direct messages. You can see the error, something went wrong. So let's go ahead and implement those now. So first let's do the global /API/direct messages just to load the messages. Let's go ahead. Let's close everything. Let's go inside of the app folder, inside of the API folder, and create a new folder called direct-messages like that. And inside, you can just copy the route from messages because they're very similar. We're just going to have to change a couple of things inside. So everything says the same. Messages batch stay the same. We're doing the cursor, the channel ID, all of that is correct. But our let message array is not going to be message, but direct message from @prisma/client. So make sure to import that, and you can already remove the message from Prisma client. All right. And now, instead of looking at await db.message, we're looking at db.directMessage this time. And instead of using a channel ID here, we're going to have to use conversation ID. So instead of loading the channel, let's go ahead. Instead of loading the channel ID, we are loading the conversation ID. So change this param to be conversation ID like that, and do the check for conversation ID, and conversation ID is missing. And then we can safely use the conversation ID right here. Perfect. Let's scroll down and let's do the same change. This one is going to be direct message like that, and this is going to be the conversation ID like that. Perfect. And everything else can stay the same, and let's just change this to direct messages get, so we know something goes wrong here. So why does this change to conversation ID? Well, because in our main folder, routes, conversations, member ID page, we set the param key to be conversation ID, and the socket query is conversation ID. So that's what we are working with here. So let's go ahead and refresh this now. And there we go, no more errors, but our chat is still not going to work. We have to fix that now. So now let's create that route that is going to allow us to create direct messages. So let's go ahead and close everything and go inside of the pages folder. And you can go inside of the socket folder and create a new folder, direct-messages like this. And inside you can copy the index.ts. So just paste it from messages like this. And now we are going to modify it to match the direct messages instead of just messages. So first thing that we are going to change is this request.query. We are not going to work with server ID and channel ID. Instead, we're just going to work with conversation ID like that, which means that we can only check this conversation ID, write conversation ID is missing, and remove the check for channel ID, like that. And instead of looking for server here, we are going to look for the conversation. So you can go ahead here and remove this const server, like that. And let's go ahead, and we can actually also remove the channel. So all the way, so remove both the check for channel, remove the check for server, all of these things. So just leave the member after the content check right here. And we're gonna get our conversations from the, our members from the conversation. So let's go ahead now and let's write const, let me zoom back in, conversation is equal to await db.conversation.find first, like that, where ID is conversation ID as string, like that, or open an array, member1 profile ID is equal to profile.id of the currently logged in user, so like that. Or the other option is that we are member2, so either member1 or member2 has to have our matching profile ID, which we get right here using the current profile pages, right? So after we get that, let's go ahead and add include, and let's go ahead and let's include the member1, and let's include their profile, so true. And you can go ahead and copy this and just rename this to member2, like this. Perfect. And now, before we do the members, let's do if there is no conversation. In that case, we can return this error 404 conversation not found, like this. Let me just expand my screen as much as I can. There we go. And now we're gonna use a different method to find the member. So we're gonna write conversation.member1.profile ID is equal to current profile dot ID. If that is true, then we are member1. So let's assign ourselves to conversation dot member1. Otherwise, we are member2. So conversation dot member2, like that. Perfect. And we can leave this as it is. And instead of creating a message, we are right now creating a direct message, right? Which means we are no longer using the channel ID, but the conversation ID, like that. And everything else is the same because those two models are very similar. And last thing we have to change is this channel key to use conversation ID instead. And let's just change this to direct messages post, like that. So let's go ahead now and let's try this. So I assume this is still not going to work real time, but after I refresh, I think the message should be visible. So this is a direct message. Let's go ahead. It seems like we've gotten an error here. It seems to be a 404 error. All right, let's go ahead and let's check out what that is. So we have /API socket direct messages here. And what I forgot was to add, so messages is spelled with 2 S's, and I named my folder with 1 S. Messages, like that. Okay, let's try now. So this is a direct message. I'm going to press enter, and there we go. Now it's disabled for a longer time here, and there we go. This is a direct message. Perfect. So you can see that, yeah, it actually works in real time because this one sends the proper REST socket server IO channel key, right? And we already have all of that set up. So you see how useful that was that we first finished the entire chat messages. Perfect. Again, if you're not using sockets, you should see your message anyway after 1 second because of that refresh interval that we have. Great. What's not working now is editing the messages and deleting them. So let's do that. So let's go back inside of our folder right here, and let's expand this a little bit, and you can just copy this message ID and paste it here in the direct messages. And let's go ahead and let's rename that to direct message ID, like this. Great. So go inside of that file right now and let's modify it so it fits the message ID and conversation structure. So we are no longer looking for message ID, server ID, and channel ID from the query. Instead, we are looking for direct message ID because that's what we named our file, direct message ID. And we are looking for the conversation ID because that is the param key that we are sending. The content stays the same, and we can just check for the conversation ID here and change this to conversation ID is missing, and go ahead and remove this check. No need for it. And now we can go ahead and remove this server and this channel. So just leave the member like we did in that previous one. And let's go ahead and let's find the conversation instead. So const conversation is equal, let me zoom in, is equal to await db.conversation.find first, like that, where ID is conversation ID as string, or open an array, member1 profile ID is equal to current profile.id, or it's member2. So the second item in array is member2, like that. So we are either that one or the other one. After the where clause, let's add the include clause. So member1 and their profile. And same thing for the member2. So let's go ahead and add that. Member2 profile. There we go. And now let's go ahead and let's copy this, check for member, and reuse it for the conversation. So if we didn't find the conversation, then just write conversation not found, like that. And now let's go ahead and modify how we find the member. So conversation.member1 .profile ID is equal to profile.id. In that case, we are conversation.member1. Otherwise, we are conversation.member2. Like that. This can stay the same. And now for the messages, let's go ahead and change this to let direct message await direct message that find first, where is going to use the direct message ID, and it's going to use the conversation ID like that, and the rest can stay the same. If there is no direct message, or if direct message has been deleted, in that case, message has not been found. Perfect. And let's change this to use direct message.member ID as well. The rest can stay the same. Now let's go in the delete method right here. So delete method is going to use the direct message constant and look for db.directMessage. ID is going to be direct message ID. And there we go. The rest can stay the same. And the same thing is going to be for the patch. So if we're going to change from message constant to direct message constant, await db.directMessage, and it's going to use the direct message ID like that. And inside of here, we're going to use conversation.id, and we're going to pass in the direct message here and the direct message to the JSON right here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and let's try that out now. So I'm going to refresh this. And let's try and edit these messages in real time. So edited direct message, and let's save it. Let's see if it works. There we go, in real time. And let's delete this one. Once I delete it, let's see, there we go, all in real time. Perfect. So you have completely finished all the messages. Now what we have to do is add the video and voice channels. So now let's go ahead and let's enable video chats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to visit livekit.io. So this is open source and has a very generous free tier, and you can also self-host it if you want to. So I think this is the absolute best option for real-time video, audio, and data. Let's go ahead and let's click on the cloud right here. Once you're in the cloud, go ahead and click Get Started for free and go ahead and create an account. Once you are inside, go ahead and accept terms of service just like this, and let's name the app. So I'm going to name it Discord-tutorial like that and continue. Let's wait a second for this to load and go ahead and just answer these questions right here. Great. Once you are in the cloud here, let's go ahead and let's prepare our .environment file so we can add the environment variables needed. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add livekit_API_key. I'm going to add livekit_API_secret and next _public_livekit_URL like that. And let's go ahead and fill each of those. So first thing we can already fill is the next public livekit URL. What you have to do is once you've logged in and you are inside of this dashboard, you can see this URL right here. So just click copy WebSocket URL at the top and go ahead and paste it here like that. Great. Now, let's go ahead and let's go inside of settings here and go ahead and click on add a new key. Go ahead and give it a description. So I'm going to call it tutorial and click generate like that. And don't close this window. Copy the API key and paste it in livekit_API_key and copy the secret key and go ahead and paste that into livekit API secret like that. Great. So now that you have that, you can go and visit livekit documentation. So you can safely close this now. If you accidentally closed it before you were able to paste it, just click add a new key. Great. Now let's go ahead and click on the documentation button here and let's follow the documentation for next 13 right here. So let's first do the installation of livekit SDK right here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to show you in my terminal how that looks. So let's go inside of the terminal here. I'm going to close my app and there we go. Let's just, okay. So it's this one. It's npm install livekit-server-sdk, livekit-client, and livekit/components-react, and livekit/components-styles like that. So let me zoom out so you can see this in one line if possible, like this. So or you can just copy it from their documentation, of course. Just select the npm. So it's step 1 under next 13 documentation. And go ahead and press enter and wait for all of those to install. Great. Once that has installed, let's go ahead and let's follow the step 2, which we already did. We added all of this API keys inside, so no need to do that. What we have to do now is create a token endpoint. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go inside of my app, inside of my API folder. So let me just zoom in a bit and I'm gonna create a new folder called livekit. So create a new folder inside of your app API called livekit like that. And go ahead and add a new file route.ts inside like that. And you can go ahead and copy this entire snippet and paste it here. I am of course going to expand this. So if you don't want to copy from there, you can copy from mine right here. So there we go. Pause the screen and you can copy this entire thing. But we do have to change a couple of stuff. So first things first, this is fine, but our API key, API secret are also fine, but the VS URL is not. Instead of this one, it's going to be next_public_livekit_URL like that. Perfect. And everything else can stay the same. So why did this need a change? Well, because in our .environment file, as you can see, we're using the next public livekit URL. So just make sure all of those 3 keys match what you use here. So secret and API key like that. Perfect. Now that this is done, we can create our component, which is going to join the actual video call. So let's go ahead and let's go inside of our components folder and create a new file called media-room.tsx like that. Go ahead and mark this as use client like that. Go ahead and import use effect and use state from React. Go ahead and import livekit room video conference from @livekit/components-react like that, and import @livekit/component-styles like this. Go ahead and import channel from Prisma client. Go ahead and import use user from Clerk Next.js. Go ahead and import loader2 from Lucid React like that. Now let's create an interface media room props to have a chat ID, which is a string, a video, which is a boolean, and audio, which is a boolean as well. Great. Now let's write export const media room. And let's extract all of those. So chat ID, video, and audio. And let's map them to the props, media room props, like that. Perfect. So let's return this arrow function. And let's go ahead and let's get the user. So user from use user, which we imported from Clerk. And let's create a state for token and set token from use state like that. Now let's create a use effect here, which is going to call our newly created LiveKit route and append the token inside of this state. So if there is no user first name, or if there is no user last name, we can return the function. And now let's generate the name constant using backticks. So open an object, user.firstname, a space, user.lastname, like that. So that's going to be written when you join the room. Now let's go ahead and add a self-executing function. So go ahead and open parentheses and write asynchronous function like this. Go ahead and open a try and catch block. In the catch, we are just going to log the error like that. And in the try block, write const response is equal to await fetch open backticks /API /livekit question mark room is equal to open a special object chat ID and username is equal to the name. So every channel is gonna be have its own chat ID, so that's why we are gonna be able to that easily generate unique video rooms for every channel and for every direct message. Great. Let's get the data. Const data is equal to await response.json like that. Set token data.token like that. Perfect. And now let's go ahead and give this dependency array a user question mark first name, user question mark last name, and chat ID like that. Great. Now let's go ahead and render if token is empty, which means we are still fetching the token. So let's return a div with a class name of flex-call, flex-1, justify-center, and items-center, like that. And inside add a loader2, which we imported, which is a self-closing tag, and give it a class name of h-7w-7, like that. Text-sync-500, animate-spin, and my-4, like that. And a paragraph which says loading with 3 dots, like that. And let's give the paragraph a class name of text-extra small, text-sync-500, and on dark mode text-sync-400, like that. Great. And finally, if everything is working fine, return a LiveKit room like that, which is a self-closing tag. My apologies, it's not a self-closing tag. So go ahead and render video conference inside like that. Give it a data-lk-theme of default. Give it a server URL of process.environment.next_public_livekit_URL. Make sure that matches your environment file. A token of token, a connect of true, a video of video, and audio of audio, like that. Perfect. And now we're ready to render this inside of channel ID page. So now let's go inside of our channel ID page, inside of app, main, routes, channels, channel ID right here. And let's dynamically render these messages and this chat input. So we're only going to render that if channel type is text. So go ahead and add a conditional channel.type is equal to channel type and import that from Prisma client. So make sure you add this import. I'm going to move it to the top. If it's equal to channel type.text, only then are we going to render a fragment like that, and go ahead and copy the chat messages and the chat input like that and paste it inside. There we go. And also just indent it so it looks nice. Great. And outside, go ahead and add if channel type is equal to channel type dot audio. In that case, we're going to render a media room like this. We're going to pass in the chat ID of channel.id and a video of false and an audio of true, like that. Great. And let's import media room from add/components media room. So let's not forget that. Okay. And let's copy and paste this and do the same thing for video, but this time video is going to be true, like that. Perfect. So let's try this out now. I'm going inside of my application here. Yeah, also make sure you run your application. So let me just go ahead and npm run dev. And let's go ahead now and let's go ahead and create a video channel. So I'm going to call this video-test and give it a type of video and click create right here. All right, let's see if video test is working. All right, it seems to be loading. I'm going to wait a couple of seconds and then I'm going to check for errors. All right, so the reason we are stuck in infinite load is very simple. So we have to go inside of components, inside of the media room, and inside of this asynchronous function, I forgot to execute it. So go at the end of the brackets inside of the use effect of the asynchronous function and just execute it at the end like this. Let's go ahead and refresh this, and there we go. Now we can see a room being loaded here, and let's see if this is gonna go smoothly. There we go. You can see my name here. You can see that I'm talking, and you can finally see me. Perfect. And let's go ahead and try the audio room, and there we go. The camera is off here. Perfect. So now you can see me here on the camera. One thing that we have to do now is enable this for direct one-on-one communication with users. So now let's go ahead and let's create one of the last components inside of our components folder here. So go inside of the app folder, components, chat, and in here create a chat-video-button.tsx component. Let's go ahead and mark this as use client like that. Let's go ahead and import QS from query-string. Like that. Let's import use path name from next navigation, use router, and use search params like that. Let's import video and video off from Lucid React, and let's import action tooltip from /action tooltip, and I'm just gonna change that to /components like that. Perfect. And now let's export const chat video button like that. And let's go ahead and let's return an action tooltip, give it a side of bottom like that, label of tooltip label like that, and inside render a button with an icon like this. So let's go ahead and define this stuff now. So const icon is going to be is video. In that case, it's going to be video off, otherwise video like that. And const tooltip label is going to be is video and video call, otherwise start video call like that. Now let's get this. So const is video is equal to search params dot get video like that, and add a question mark between search params, and let's get the search params now. So const search params is equal to use search params like that. Const path name is equal to use path name. Const router is equal to use router like that. So add those three, great, and now you have the const video, great. You have the icon, rename this to capital icon so that you can render it, great. And let's go ahead and let's add an onClick function here. So const onClick, const URL is equal to qs.stringify URL. URL is going to be path name or an empty string like that, and query is going to be video is video undefined, otherwise true, and add an option to skip null true like that. Perfect. And then let's go ahead and let's edit this a little bit. So go ahead and give this icon a class name of h-6w-6 text-sync-500 dark text-sync-400, and go ahead and give this button an onClick like that, and a class name of hover-opacity-75 and transition and mr-4 like that. So now let's go ahead and save this file and go back inside of the chat header component and go all the way down where it says the socket indicator, and before the socket indicator add a type is equal to conversation. In that case, go ahead and add chat video button like that, and make sure you import it from .chat video button like that. There we go. And now if you go into inside one-on-one conversation, inside of your chat header right here, you should see a video call button. And when you click on it, it should append a video through here. So let's go ahead and let's see why that is not working for me. So I'm just going to refresh. I'm going to click again. Okay, let's go ahead and debug that. So it's very simple. So I was in chat header, I got back to chat video button. It's because I don't use this URL. So let's go ahead and write router.push URL like that. And let's try now. If I click, let's refresh first. There we go. So when I click, you can see that video is appended in my URL. When I click, it's off. So now let's do the functionality which actually shows the media room. So let's go back inside of our member ID page. So I'm just gonna go and expand this and go inside of app, main, routes, conversation, member ID page. So let me just expand so you can see where that is. Go back to the props right here and add search params here, which are gonna have a video optional boolean like that. And go ahead and extract the search params from here as well. And now go back inside of the render function. And let's go ahead and leave the chat header, but let's keep this only if search params.video. So put exclamation point. So if there is no video in search params, only then go ahead and render a fragment with chat messages and chat input. So select two of these like that and paste them inside and just go ahead and indent those. Perfect. There we go. So that solves that now. And now let's go ahead above that and add a different query. So if search params.video is true, then go ahead and render the media room from components media room. So make sure you import the media room like I did here and give it a chat ID of conversation.id and video of true and audio of true like that. There we go. Let's go ahead and try. I'm going to refresh here. And once I click on the video call right here, you should be able to see me right here on the camera because we have a one-on-one conversation. Perfect. And if I end the video call, we are off. Great job. You finished the entire Discord clone. I'm not sure if I have time to show you the deployment. If not, I'm going to write in the comments how to do it, or I'm going to make an additional video. If I do, I'm going to recheck my total time and then I'm going to create another part. Nevertheless, thank you so much for watching this entire video, and I hope to see you in the next one if this is the end of the video. Thank you so much and great job. So it looks like I have some time to show you how to deploy after all. So let's go ahead and let's close everything. So I'm just going to zoom out. I'm going to close everything here. Go inside of your terminal right here. Shut down the application and do git add, git commit, final. Okay, so I already committed, but I just wanted to show you that you do this as well. And now let's go ahead and create our GitHub repository. Alright, so I opened a new repository template here inside of my account, and let's name this something like team-chat-tutorial like that. Let's make it private and click create repository. Go ahead and choose the second option, which is push an existing repository from the command line. And let's paste all of that here. So just make sure you did git add and git commit like that. And now go ahead and visit railway.com. So we cannot deploy to Vercel because Vercel is serverless and we're using WebSockets, meaning that WebSockets will not work there. So go ahead and create an account or log in. So you have a free tier which doesn't require a credit card. Go ahead and click on new project and click deploy from GitHub repo right here. And now you might have to click configure GitHub app if it's not loading your repositories. So I'm going to search for mine. What did I name it? Team chat. So find your repository.